And if you want to be better, you can double down on the things that you're good at. But I think there's a moment of reflection where we start to think about what can we shore up that we've never considered before. We really ought to consider this model: head, heart, and hands, logic, empathy, and action. What kind of man are you? Where did that come from? Who did you learn that from? When has it served you? When has it not served you in order to be more effective in your life? Man, I've been thinking a lot about what it means to be a more holistic man. My good friend Jason Wilson wrote a book called The Man the Moment Demands. And not only in this book, but other books that he's written and things that he's shared, he's talked about becoming a more comprehensive man is the term that he uses. And I've realized this in my own life, that I often fall into black and white thinking. I often have this potentially even limited view of what it means to be a man and what masculinity is. And I think most of us can agree to some extent that we naturally gravitate towards one facet of masculinity over others. And I think that if we are to be the men that our children need us to be, that the loves of our lives need us to be, that community members and even strangers need us to be, countrymen as well, then we are to round out our perception of what it means to be a man. And I've been thinking a lot about this over the past couple of weeks. And I had this thought just the other day that there's three main components, and I work really well under frameworks. If I have a framework for what it means to be a man, or a framework for what it means to be a good father, or a framework for what it means to be a good entrepreneur, I'm more likely to follow that framework. And that's why we create tools and systems here inside Order of Man, because they're just as much for me as anybody else. But the framework I started thinking about over the past couple of days for becoming a more comprehensive man is this idea that we need to incorporate our head, our heart, and our hands. The head is the logic. The head is the critical thinking. It's the logical side of our brain. It's us looking at data and information and circumstances objectively. And I'll talk about some pros and cons. The heart is the emotional side. It's your mental and emotional well-being. It also incorporates the spiritual realm, things that we can't always quantify or prove or run through the scientific model. It's faith. It's believing in things that aren't always tangible or quantifiable. But I think there's power to the way that we feel and our intuition and our God-given right to his insight and the Holy Spirit. We'll talk a little bit about that. And then the third component is the hands. It's getting to work. It's doing the work. It's taking action. It's moving forward. It's recognizing problems. It's solving problems. It's using our physical prowess and our acumen to, I was going to say exert our will. That has a negative connotation, but to move the needle forward, to charge on, to drive on, to get shit done. And if you're like me, I operate really, really well in the head realm and the hands realm. I can think logically about situations. I can be objective. I can see a situation for what it is. I can strip away the emotion and the baggage and the bullcrap that comes with the way you feel about things and look at it for what it actually is. And I'm also very good at getting to work. If you're like me, you can do that too. If you're not like me, maybe you're a head and heart guy. So maybe you think critically and logically about things. You're willing to look at the data. And then from a heart perspective, you're willing to analyze how you feel about it. And these individuals, although they're very thoughtful, often run the risk of not ever putting their thoughts and their feelings into practice. So everything just bounces around in their brain, constantly thinking about what they should do, what they would do, how they would do this better, how they could solve this problem, or why they feel a way and why this experience feels this way to other people, but they never put it into practice. And then you have hands and hearts guys who are solely relying on emotion. This is how I feel. This is how other people feel. They over-index the way that other people are feeling. They take any sort of negative feedback to heart. They believe it's an indictment against them, and they take action based on what other people around them are feeling, what they're feeling, but they often overlook the analytical, critical, logical thinking side of it. And I don't think one is inherently worse than another. I don't know if that's true, actually, just because of my own bias towards the head and hands kind of guy. My bias is always towards think about it logically and then get to work. I think that's the best way. Obviously, I think that's the best way. But if I'm looking at it logically and maybe even bringing in the heart side of it, I can see that maybe there's other ways to do it. And that's what I want for all of us. I want all of us to consider when we make decisions, when we lead our families, when we lead our businesses and community members and clients, that we consider that there's a whole other dynamic that often we're missing. I've found that guys are pretty good. They're probably 60%, maybe 50% on one, 30 to 40% on the other, and 20 to 10% on the third component. And depending on the situation, you may need to skew those numbers a little bit. I'm not here to tell you that it should always be 33.3, 33.3, and 33.3. See, that's my head speaking. I'm here to tell you that depending on what the situation calls for, it may be you're heavily weighted towards the head side of things, or it may be that you're heavily weighted towards just getting it done in hands sort of things. Or maybe depending on a situation. I had a good friend just message me and call me. We had a good conversation. His close personal friend took his life just a couple of days ago. That doesn't require hands. That actually doesn't require head at that point. You know what it requires? Heart. That's my weak point personally. But I could see in that moment that I needed to be 80% heart and the other 20 could be head and hands. It was empathy. It was compassion. It was grace and understanding and listening and being attuned to what he was dealing with. I could hear a crackle in his voice as he talked about his friend that he had just lost to suicide. And there's other situations. In fact, this same friend, him and I had an earlier conversation where we were talking about business growth and how to move forward the mission of Order of Man. That wasn't necessarily a hearts conversation. That was a head conversation. And then hands are actually now doing the work. I had a really good preview call for the Iron Council. If you don't know what that is, that's our exclusive brotherhood. It's closed now, but we had a preview call just a couple of days ago. And I, because of my predisposition to be more inclined to focus on the head and the hands, that's normally how I do these preview calls. But in a moment of revelation, I realized, you know what, maybe what these guys need is a heart discussion. And I talked about a brother-in-law of mine decades ago who took his own life and how tragic that was for his wife, my sister, and the emotion that I experienced, even being somewhat disconnected from the situation and how she must have felt and how he must have been feeling. And I had a really good discussion about this. And it was really interesting for me to look around the room. I think we had about 50 or 60 guys on the call at that point. And I could see that they were connected in a way that they had not connected with me before. And I can see that there's an opportunity here for me to incorporate more of the heart into the messages that I'm sharing with you, because that's what, to Jason Wilson's point, that's the man the situation demands. And so I would ask you, are you a head and hearts guy? Are you a head and hands guy? Are you a heart and hands guy, or a heart and heads guy? Or are you a hands and heart, or a hands and head? I think I hit all the combinations. But typically we're pretty decent in two of them and we're lacking in a third. So what does that look like? Well, again, a head guy is going to be very logical, hard charger, driven, motivated, inspired, great things. On the downside, he's going to rub people the wrong way. He's going to push too hard when he should pull back. He's going to charge forward. He's probably going to leave a wake of collateral damage in his path. I only know this because this is me. What's a heart guy going to do? He's going to be very in tune to how people are feeling. It's going to be very empathetic and kind and gracious and understanding and patient, all wonderful things. But he's not going to really see through the clouds what actually is the reality of the situation. He has a hard time deciphering what is fact and what is fiction, what is story and what is real, what is perception versus what is reality. And oftentimes he also has a hard time moving the needle forward. He's very kind, very in tune, very empathetic, but doesn't move the needle forward. This is not an indictment personally. This is not a personal attack on any of you. I want you to analyze what type of man you are so you can round out who you are. What's the hands guy do? He gets after it. He's kicking ass. He's doing work. He's moving. He's busy. He's getting things done. Very productive, very effective, super efficient, hyper focused on moving the needle forward. But his demise is that he doesn't often think about the action that he's taking. He doesn't consider that the action he's taking might have negative impacts to the people around him. He's so focused on getting work done that he forgets there's other people that might need to be considered in the actions that he's taking. This is the crazy thing, is that regardless of what weight you place on head, heart, and hands, you're going to have strength, but you're also going to have some weaknesses, a lot of weaknesses. And that's what we need to review and analyze and really figure out, how can I do better? And we do have a mandate to do better. That's the only reason you're listening to this podcast, to be a better father, to be a better business partner, to be a better husband, to be a better leader in your community, a better politician, a better neighbor, a better friend, a better coach, a better businessman. And if you want to be better, you can double down on the things that you're good at, but I think there's a moment of reflection where we start to think about, what can we shore up that we've never considered before? I don't know that this model is perfect. Again, I've only been thinking about this over the past couple of days, but I think as a man, we really ought to consider this model. Head, heart, and hands. Logic, empathy, and action. What kind of man are you? Where did that come from? Who did you learn that from? When has it served you? When has it not served you? What elements of the three-tier trifecta of what it means to be a man can you focus more heavily on in order to be more effective in your life? And when I say more effective, I'm talking about having deeper conversations with your kids, one where they trust you and love you and care about you and want to hear what you have to say. One where your wife looks to you for leadership and guidance and direction and clarity, but also when she's having a bad day, she knows she can come to you because you're not going to judge her, critique her, give her all the answers, but just listen quietly and let her process her thoughts. One where your clients believe in you. If you mess up, they give you grace because you give them grace. One where your community members, maybe even your neighbors, know, hey, you know what? If I need something done, all I have to do is call Joe or John or Steve or Owen or Ryan, and I know that he will get things done. What are people saying about you? Now, look, I know this is a little bit taboo, like you don't want to think about what other people are saying about you. That's what the quote-unquote alpha machismo guys talk about. Like, I don't care what anybody else thinks of me. I do. I actually care about what you think of me. I care about what my kids think of me. I care about what my girlfriend and her daughter think of me. I care about what a lot of people think about me. Not everybody. I can exercise discernment. But for those of the people in my lives who matter, I care about what they think because I want to be influential in a positive way in their lives. And if I care about what they think, then I need to round out my approach to the situations they're dealing with. And that is my job. If I were to strip everything else away, I look at it as my job to fix problems, to move forward, to overcome hurdles, to confront threats to the people in my life's well-being, and to ultimately lead them to a place they could not have imagined going on their own. I cannot do that if I'm one-dimensional. This is three-dimensional. One-dimensional is you just work. And guys are notorious for doing that. They burn themselves out and they piss everybody off in the process. Another dimension is the over-analytical thinker, and he's just obnoxious, and he thinks about everything, and he never gets anything done. And the other one is just overly empathetic, where he just cares about everybody's feelings and euphoria and this utopian society. And if everybody just loved each other, and that we know doesn't work either. It's a balance, and each one of those dimensions has value. The question is, how do we incorporate each of these dimensions to make ourselves better and to serve others more effectively? I hope that helps. I'm going to be fleshing this out a little bit more. I got to think more about this. Head, heart, and hands, guys. Remember it. Think about it. And if you have thoughts for me or comments or ideas or insight as I'm working through this myself, please let me know. You can hit me up on Instagram is the best place, at Ryan Michler. That's spelled Michler. Connect with me. I'm very good at getting back to messages, so if you want to do this privately, we can do that as well. But I think this is going to be a valuable lesson, and I'm going to do some more work as I dive into this. Outside of that, make sure to connect with us over at orderofman.com. Please leave a rating and review. We're trying to blow this thing up. Some of the social media companies are playing games with the algorithm. It's the nature of the beast. You leaving a review, you sharing it, you promoting it, grassroots movement here is going to go a very, very long way. And you can do that at orderofman.com or also wherever you're listening to podcasts to leave a review. All right, guys, head, heart, and hands. Remember it. Go out there, take action, and become the man you are meant to be.